So I think we might have some teenagers listening to this today. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about them, because I think teenagers are actually a population who could really benefit from this approach. It's not just, you know, middle-aged, sleep-deprived mothers like me. Children naturally become more owlish as they approach adolescence. It's just something that happens. We don't really understand why. But, you know, asking a teenager to get up for school at 7 in the morning is like asking me to get up at 5 a.m. It's that extreme, the shift towards more owlishness. So no wonder they don't want to do it. But what it often means is that because they don't feel tired until later, they can't fall asleep till later, and then we're still asking them to get up for school the next day, and that means that they're kind of chronically sleep deprived. So one solution might be for secondary schools to shift their start times later. This has happened a lot. This has been happening a lot in the US in recent years, and it has, you know, it's pretty much widely accepted now that teenagers should not be starting school at 7:30, which is what they used to do in the US. But, you know, and kids report, you know, feeling better, feeling less tired, actually getting more sleep, because they've realized how much better they feel just getting that little bit of extra sleep by starting school later. And then apparently some of them are even starting to go to bed earlier voluntarily, because they've just realized how much better they feel when they're getting a proper night's sleep. What about in the UK? I mean, our schools, you know, start at sort of 8:30, 9 o'clock-ish. Could we benefit as well? Well, there was a study of this English school where they shifted the school start time from 8:50 a.m. to 10 a.m. And what they found was that the rates of absence dropped from 15.4 days on average per year before this change was made to just 7.3 days absence on average per year 2 years after they'd introduced this change. They also saw this improvement in GCSE scores. So 34% of pupils were obtaining a good GCSE grade, like A to C, before the change, and then that rose to 52% afterwards. As I said earlier, you know, sleep really does matter, and it's not just about school grades. There was another study that found that teenagers whose parents managed to persuade them to go to bed earlier, those teenagers are at lower risk of depression and suicidal thinking. So, you know, I really do think making school start times later is a good idea. But until that happens, if it ever does, there is something that teenagers can do to improve their chances of getting more sleep, and that is rethinking their light exposure. Just think about it. If you can shift your sleep timing 1.5 to 2 hours earlier, you're going to want to go to bed earlier and therefore allow yourself more sleep. And I think dim is the really key word here, because you don't have to switch to candles. I mean, that's actually, it's actually deeply impractical. But, you know, dimmer switches, table lamps, you can get these smart light bulbs now where you can tune out the blue light and dim the lights. I think I've got some. We've been fitting them in my house. These Hue bulbs. And also the same should apply to computer screens and smartphone screens. So, you know, you can put your iPhone on night shift mode. Your laptop, you can install this software called F-Lux, which tunes out the blue light and dims your screen. It's really important to also make sure that you dim the screen, because a lot of night shift mode things will just remove some of the blue, but there'll still be blue light there. But our eyes are also sensitive to light from any spectrum if it's bright enough. And it's increasingly looking as though younger people are more sensitive to lower amounts of light. So, you know, keep things dim and warm like firelight. But also darkening your evenings and brightening your days will increase the amplitude of those circadian rhythms, so making them more pronounced, a bigger difference between day and night. And that's important because flattened circadian rhythms seem to be associated